All right, go ahead and roll for perception.
I got a 13.
Hey, that's pretty good. With that, you can tell there's some fantasy situations going on. You hear some adult language, and with that, you can tell this podcast probably isn't for kids. This episode of the Dungeoncast is brought to you by Nightshade Creations, Prism Dice Tower, and Rolling Surface. Made for gamers by gamers. The Prism Dice Tower and Rolling Surface boast great quality for a great price. We chose to make our product from Aspen, which is the perfect blend of high quality and affordability. It works for practical use in all types of games or even just as a collectible. If you're looking for a great deal, please check out our Kickstarter campaign. Find us there by searching Nightshade Creations. You can find Nightshade Creations on Twitter at JBNightshade and at facebook.com/JBNightshadeCreations.com. Once again, that's Nightshade Creations, Prism Dice Tower, and Rolling Surface. We hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons & Dragons, from fierce fighters to fickle fiends. And today, we're talking about Metallic Dragons!
Yes, we are.
Prepare yourselves. I cast Fireball. The Dungeoncast.
All right, Brian.
Yes, Will, I am excited.
Yeah, I figured you would be. Metallic Dragons are dope as fuck. Okay, so we're going to talk about Metallic Dragons, which are the antithesis of chromatic dragons. And
Sick.
they're inherently entwined.
Like Batman and the Joker.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All
We'll go
right,
with
cool.
that. Yeah. It's more like their deities are like brother and sister. And like, we'll get into that.
All right.
So here's the thing. One thing I wanted to say is this is the first Monster Mythos episode where we're actually talking about a monster that is not a bastard. These are legitimately good creatures, and not like Fae, where some Fae can be kind of good, and but
In
they're
some
just
weird way.
Yeah, no, they're just legitimately good. Most of them err on the side of lawful good. In fact,
Nice.
Although a couple are chromatic. A couple are chaotic good.
I find that lawful good can be evil in some of its own ways.
Yes, that is definitely true. The alignment chart is definitely flawed. I will venture to say that Metallic Dragons probably are always slightly... okay, remember when we talked about chromatic dragons, how they were kind of tiered? Where red dragons were top dog, white dragons are kind of
As
bottom?
far they have like basically like, is that tied into the CR rating, or is that just like a lorical power level?
It's well, it is the challenge rating, definitely. But it's always been a thing. It's always been a thing in D&D. It's just the way it is.
Vegeta, what is the power level? What does the scanner say about his power level?
It's over 9,000. Okay, so so I have found in the monster manual that lawful good things seem to be really fucking strong, including angels. That's a strong one, and I would say that the metallic dragons are very slightly stronger than their chromatic counterparts. With golds being the strongest fucking dragons there are.
Cool.
Another thing is there's a lot of sub-dragon races or dragonkin. Chromatic metallic dragons are the only true dragons. Well, technically, there's another, but it's not the monster manual. Gem dragons are also true dragons.
Okay.
And they are neutral, while chromatics and metallics are evil and good, respectively.
Okay.
So, one of the things that stands out to me about metallic dragons being slightly more powerful is, well, there's two things. Number one, each metallic dragon gets 2 breaths, not just one.
Ooh.
One is lethal and one is non-lethal, and they do different things. And they also...
It's just its normal breath, and it smells like Tic Tacs.
Yeah, well, it does bad stuff, but it won't kill you.
Oh, okay.
And another thing is they all inherently have the polymorphing ability, which we'll get into that. While chromatic dragons have to like learn that spell.
Nice.
Like good dragons can just do that.
So is that like ancient dragons are more likely to know spells like polymorph?
Yeah, because they're older, they know more spells.
So like
more
you can
powerful
just decide like if you're gonna put this dragon into your game, you can just decide it and learn polymorph at some point, or like
yeah, that's how I would do it.
Okay.
That's how I do it. So
For sure.
Okay, so First, let's talk about how similar they are, because there are a lot of similarities with their evil counterparts. They are the same species.
Right.
They have a lot in common. They're incredibly powerful. They're hyper intelligent. They're definitely alpha predators. They breathe magic breath. And they have the same greed and pride problems as chromatic dragons.
Ooh, greed.
They love to hoard. Now, what they hoard can be a little bit different, but like a lot of them are pretty miserly and very protective of their hoard. It's just in their nature. I like to call metallic dragons like the pop culture nerds of the D&D world, because one of the things a lot of them love to collect like old historical stuff and like almost nerd out over it. Like, oh, well, that belongs to the empire of blah 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 blah. And did you know that the empress blah blah blah? That's the style of shit they hoard. Like,
I'm a gold dragon and I hoard all of Donkey Kong's bananas.
There we go. It's like a silver dragon might be after like a very specifically made, mastercrafted silverware set, which is a reference to Adventure.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
I see.
But that is something a silver dragon would want.
By the way, while we're recording this,
Yes.
this is the week that part 2 of the Adventure Zone finale episodes are coming out.
Yeah.
I'm really stoked.
Yeah, me too.
So
It's got exciting stuff.
is now a good time to talk about the Angus McDonald as a silver dragon theory?
Let's wait till we get to the
Silver
silver dragon
Dragon?
part of the
Okay,
episode.
will
But
do.
yeah,
Will
I'm super on board with that theory.
You keep your word on this.
I will.
one. All right.
Yeah, hold me to it. Hold
Okay.
me to it. Okay, so also the pride problems. Like, we talked about how evil dragons like consider themselves the paradigm creature, and oftentimes are the paradigm of their own species in their own heads. Good dragons are the same way. It's like they know they're better than you, but they know it's not your fault, so they don't hold it against you. That's the attitude that good
They're
dragons
just like
have.
they're chill about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like they know you're.
We are better than you. I'm just not going to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Or maybe
it.
I am, but no, I'm
know
going to be a
it.
dick
Yeah.
about it.
So the primary 5 metallic dragons are gold, silver, bronze, brass, and copper.
Cool.
And they each have their own like idiosyncrasies. That's the thing I've noticed about metallic dragons is like, while chromatic dragons all have their inherent like evil flaw, like green dragons are really jealous or greedy,
Right.
While reds are really wrathful and super prideful. Metallic dragons all have like these weird idiosyncrasies, like these like quirky ass fucking characteristics that just are a part of like the kind of dragon they are, and we'll get into that. But there are more than those 5. We're not going to talk about them really much in this episode, and there are more than the 5 chromatics that we talked about in the last episode. But we'll talk about those in later episodes. But just to list some of the other metallics out there, there's steel, iron, mercury, adamantium. Mithril is something I've seen.
Fucking adamantine.
And of course, there is the one and only platinum dragon, Bahamut, which is their deity. And
For sure.
But here's the thing about the dragon deities: because they're minor deities, the dragons don't see them as deities. It's more like Bahamut is our king. And
Okay.
That's why they call Tiamat the dragon queen. Like, she is their queen.
Like the dragon of dragons.
Exactly. That's exactly how they're treated. And I think it makes sense because, remember, the dragons are in a hugely powerful level. So
Yeah, they're in
not
like a
that
different-
far from lesser deities.
Yeah, they're in like a tier ranking of like power creep in the D&D world.
Right,
The very
exactly.
high scale. Would you say they're the smallest of the big fish then? Like dragons?
Like when it comes, no. I mean,
Are they
I
like-
don't think they're the smallest of the big fish, but they're on the lower end when it comes to like, like a solar angel shows up, like a dragon's running the other way because they ain't fucking with that.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
we have the dragons and we have the beholder, and they kind of share that tier.
I would say they share that tier,
Okay.
definitely. But they're in the upper echelons of the monster manual.
yeah, like the
without a doubt.
Tarrasque is like
Yeah.
the top, right?
Yeah, I don't like talking about Tarrasque. I hate that thing. Okay, but Bahamut is their chief deity, and he is generally he's a god of justice, a god of nobility, a god of what's the word? There's justice, nobility. He has another thing that I'm not thinking of that he's like super about. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the iterations of Bahamut,
Okay.
because one of the iterations of Bahamut is my absolute favorite deity of all time, and it's in Dragonlance. The 2 major deities are a different iteration, a different take on Bahamut in Tiamat. And Bahamut is he's like the paradigm god of good called Paladine, and Tiamat is like the paradigm god of evil, Takesis.
Okay.
And I like Paladine a lot because he is just, and he is noble, and he's majestic and all those things. But most importantly, he's very kind.
Okay.
And he's much more like what silver dragons are in vanilla D&D. While Bahamut in other iterations is much more like what gold dragons are in D&D, and we'll get into that. So Bahamut's a pretty cool deity. I don't know if you got any quick questions about him. We'll do an episode on him.
Cool. And we can talk about all his Final Fantasy cameos.
Yeah. So one thing about metallic dragons is polymorphing is required. These dragons deal with people all the time.
Required reading.
A lot of times they love dealing with people, and they usually do it secretly in polymorph form. Silver's more than the rest, but I'd say the one that deals with people the least might be gold, but even they deal with people a lot in their own special way.
So what's the nature of those encounters?
It varies from dragon to dragon very drastically.
Okay.
And we're almost to the point where I'm going to start breaking them down like by type.
Okay.
I just want to go over the general dragon
okay.
information. Also, this episode, for those of you wondering, is just going to be a general overview of metallic dragons. Each metallic dragon will likely get their own episode where we get really in depth and get to the nitty gritty of like their layers and like where they live and what they do and like running one as an NPC or as a monster.
Yeah.
And like
we don't like to get too deep on the first pass.
Yeah, this is the first pass. That's exactly right. So, one thing I wanted to mention is that because they deal with people, it could be interesting. It could have an interesting effect on their psyche. These guys live a long time, way, way, way longer than elves, and they have very long memories, and it can give them a very interesting perspective when it comes to like dealing with people who are descendants of people that they knew.
Yeah. Like, oh, wait, no, you're a lot like your great-great-grandfather.
Exactly.
And he done fucked up doing what you're trying to do right now. So let me just tell you real quick.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, and that would be a big one. Another one that I've seen some lore on is like, let's say a silver dragon is best friends with this one human, and then at some point she has to leave and have a mate and then rear her child or whatever. She comes back. Die. It's been 2 generations.
Oh, shit.
That person's dead. She meets their great-great-grandchild, and there's enough similarities there where she has the same feelings towards this person as like their best friend, but let's say that this person isn't like their great-grandfather who was very, very good person, and this person's lawful evil. They might be more susceptible to being tricked by this person because they had so much trust for their...
Oh, shit.
Yeah, there could be some serious issues there that can kind of come up. It really messes with them, yeah. Also, like, I can't imagine some of these dragons spend a lot of time amongst society. Like, that's got to be rough seeing, like, people you're close to die basically constantly.
Yeah, like, all the time.
Like, because, like, with elves, humans go by real quick.
Metallic dragons are Doctor Who.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's definitely similarity there. All right, let's start talking about the specifics. And real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through each one real quick and just apply to them like some key characteristics.
Okay.
And then we'll probably take a short rest.
Yeah, so, that'll probably make me tired too.
Yeah, so
we'll see though.
Bronze dragons. Well, actually, let's start with brass dragons. There are information brokers, and they fucking love to talk. They are the most talkative of all the types of dragons, and they will talk to you. They will not give you a choice. Bronze dragons.
Your neighbor that like really kind of annoys you is a brass dragon, actually.
Yeah, there we go. And that might be so.
I just want to go inside. Why do you talk to me every time I come home?
Bronze dragons are prideful and strong. They're very organized, and they're war tacticians, and they're kind of all about waging war.
Okay.
Copper dragons are known as the jokesters and the witty of dragon folk. They really like bards, and they're very hospitable, especially if you're a good conversationalist.
For sure.
Silver dragons are notably very honorable, incredibly virtuous, and most importantly, extremely kind-hearted. And then golds, finally, the most powerful of all dragons, are known for their great wisdom, their incredible sense of justice, and their incredible devotion to slaying that which is evil. They are the paladins.
Hell yes.
They are the paladins of the dragon world, and they do not fuck around.
For sure.
And with that, let's take a short rest.
Let's take the short rest. Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the show where we stop talking about the thing we were just talking about and we talk about something else. It's you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, making it to this part of the episode and listening to the show and telling your friends about it. We've been seeing you. We've been seeing your tweets. We've been seeing your comments. Thank you guys so much. It's really gratifying to see all that, to know that me and Will are putting a lot of time into making this content for you guys and for us, and it's paying off quite nicely. Like it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been thrilling, quite frankly. And I love doing the show. And so I think the best thing for me is like the sheer amount of like tweets and messages and reviews we've been getting where it's like, I love this show. These guys are great. You know, it helps me so much. I'm just like, oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you guys. We really appreciate it. We really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we got anything too special for this bump. We just please ask if you like what we're doing here, share the show. Let
Share
people
your
know.
show. Tell your friends.
Yeah.
If they like D&D, maybe they'll like us.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
All right, you can find us on SoundCloud.com/TheDungeoncast. You can find us on YouTube. Just search The Dungeoncast. We're on all the podcast apps. I'm sure you know. I say that all the time just in case somebody's watching YouTube and wants to get into the podcast or vice versa. And that's about it. Please leave a rate and subscribe on iTunes. That really helps the show get some traction, gets noticed. That helps us out. But yeah, thank you very much. And we'll take you right back to it. I don't want to be without this content in my life much longer. I need to know the rest about these dragons.
There's a lot to know.
So let's go back to the show.
Let's go.
We're back from that cumbersome rest.
Yeah, so cumbersome.
Oh, I
Wait,
mean,
shouldn't it be reversed?
it felt good, but like I really just want to keep talking about dragons.
Well, let's do that.
Yes.
So we're gonna dive into brass dragons first.
All right,
first here on my list. Funnily enough, growing up reading fantasy, brass, bronze, and copper dragons always kind of like melded together for me. Like I just didn't really keep track of which ones did what. None of them were very iconic to me.
They look similar.
It was all about
probably.
the silvers and golds because they're fucking super cool, and I still think they're super cool. Also, though, like the chromatic dragons have each color has a very iconic look. And I think that might be because they're monsters that are evil, they get seen more in campaigns because generally heroes are fighting evil monsters.
Right.
And so I think they're used more and they have a more iconic look. And so they've always just stuck in my head a little bit better than the metallics. But that isn't to say brass, bronze, and copper dragons aren't all three very distinct and all three very cool because they are. So brass dragons have scales the color of brass. Think like a trumpet, I guess.
So they're not made of brass. They're just the color of brass.
They're the color of brass, and I like to think that their scales are like a mixture of dragon scale and the metallic alloy
Like something
that
about
they
them
represent.
comes out as brass.
Yeah, but that's just me.
Okay.
I just think that's fucking cool, so why not?
Sick.
But in the official lore, no, it's just brass colored. They breathe fire, and for their second breath, they breathe a sleep breath, which comes out as a gas that like there's a DC you have to save against, and then you fall asleep if you fail.
Oh shit.
So like then that's kind of follows like with all these dragons, it's always like a lethal breath and some sort of status effect breath, and those are the kind of the two they roll with.
Gotcha. The sleep one's creepy.
The way these ones look, they have spikes on their chin with frills on the side of their head. They have wings that connect from all the way from their shoulder tip. The wing tip or the wingspan spans all the way down to the tip of their tail. Does that make sense? Where it's like two giant wings.
Like each wing is the length of its body, pretty much.
Yeah.
Unless its head is really long.
Except for the neck and head. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. From shoulders to the tip. And like
That's
tapered.
that's
Yeah.
enormous. Like if that thing spread out its wings all the way, no matter what size it is, that's like hugely like.
Well, it's tapered though, so
Okay.
like you understand what I mean. Where it's like whitest at the shoulders and slowly
Yes, and it comes back
goes all the way
to
the tail.
like
Yeah.
if they put them to the tail, it would come to like a point.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. I fucking hate this look.
Oh,
I think
shit.
it looks really gross. But that's just me. I know a lot of people like it, and it's not just the brass dragon that has this look. The gold, it's the same way.
Okay.
I'm just not a big fan.
Well,
But whatever. That's
no
just an
counting
opinion.
for taste.
Yeah, exactly. These guys live in the desert, and they fucking love it. They love the desert. They love the heat. They love to bask in the sun.
Isn't that where the blue dragon lives?
Yes, and oftentimes they fight with brass dragons. Yeah.
I didn't want to ask that too early.
Yeah,
Fuck.
no, yeah, oh yeah. Dragons are always vying for territory, and good and evil ones fucking hate each other, and it's always
They're
a war
just
with these
going
guys.
for it.
Yeah, they go at it like nobody's business. Yeah, I would say blues probably fight with bronze dragons a lot too, because bronze dragons live on the coast, and sometimes that's where blues like to live too. Sometimes. Okay, so they love the desert, they love the heat, they love the sun, but there's one thing they love more, and that is talking to people. They have an insatiable appetite for socializing. And a big part of that is they like gaining a bunch of information.
Is that what they're hoarding?
It is one of the things that they hoard. They also hoard normal shit too. But yes, they definitely are hoarding information. And if you are in their vicinity and they know about it, they're going to come talk to you.
They're going to try and get what you have to offer.
They absolutely will come talk to you.
Will they divulge information to you?
If they like you enough and if it seems prudent, they might, without a doubt. They're not like hoarding this information and then not letting any of it out.
Got it.
But they're definitely taking more in than they're probably letting out, I would say. They like knowing things. But they're a little bit extreme. Like most dragons, they're very extreme about what they do.
Yes.
And if you refuse to talk to them or engage in good conversation, they will fucking kidnap you and pin you down until you fucking talk to them. They
Talk
don't
to
care.
me, please.
Talk to me, yeah. Well, I'm lonely in the desert, please.
Why don't you just want to talk to me?
Exactly. What's wrong with me? So yeah, that's kind of their yeah, exactly. They'll put you to sleep. They'll take you to their lair, which is usually under the stand somewhere, and they're gonna get all the info out of you.
They're gonna make you tea,
and then they'll let you go. They'll make you tea. Yeah. They'll be nice about it, I think.
But you will be bound when you wake.
Yeah, and speaking of like their forcing of
tea.
Speaking of their forcing of conversation, one of the things that they love to hoard is any item that makes socialization more likely and more easily attained.
Do you mean like, see this crazy gem I found? Aren't you interested about it?
No, that's not what I mean. What I mean, and to get this, like a telepathic sentient weapon.
What?
Hell yes, they're about that. They will hoard the fuck out of those because they get to talk to them. They get to talk to these swords. They get to talk to these shields that can talk. They also like a lamp that holds a genie. Oh fuck yeah! Now I get to talk to a genie. Hell yeah, give me that. Like they love collecting that kind of shit.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're generally, I think they're like mid tier on the power level, but they're
like
not
in the power level of dragons.
In the power level of metallic dragons.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not my least favorite of the metallics, but they're definitely not my favorite. I don't really got much more to say on them.
Sound like they'd annoy the hell out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, they would annoy the fuck out of me too. Moving on to a less annoying dragon, we're going to talk about bronze dragons, which at this point I think has become my second favorite of metallics because they're pretty fucking cool. Number one, they shoot lightning out of their faces. As anyone who listens to this podcast knows, I'm a fucking fan of that shit. Number two, I like their secondary breath. It's called a repulsion breath, and it's like a force wave that comes out of their face that pushes you back.
That's cool.
I like that. That's fucking cool as well.
Like Thunderwave? Doesn't Thunderwave the spell do that?
Yes, I would say it's much like Thunderwave, although I don't think it does damage because that's kind of the thing about their secondary breath. No damage.
Yeah, non-lethal.
No damage, just effects.
Status.
Yeah, exactly. They have horns that crest their heads. I think the two most prominent things about the way they look is they have bronze scales, but usually stripes of like almost like a green. And even like some of their skin will be tinged green, kind of like the green that Statue of Liberty is, because that was originally a bronze.
Right, and it
ages.
Yes.
So they got that same look
oxidizes.
Too. Copper dragons also have this thing on them, but I love the look on bronze dragons because they get these really cool green stripes. But a secondary thing is they live in the coast. They're coastal dwellers, and because of that, they have webbed feet. They're incredibly amphibious and they can breathe underwater. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, they're really cool, and they really like to fuck with pirates. And they also like if there's like some dope ass ship with people on it, they might polymorph and land on their ship and be like, "Yo, what's up? What's going on?
Hey,
yeah,
hi."
Let's talk a little bit about their personality.
Yes, I did come out of the sea.
They are very strong and they fucking know it. I think these are the third most powerful of dragons, and they take a lot of pride in that strength, and they're always looking for a worthy fight to use that strength for good. Like, always for good, never for evil, but always with a price. They like to polymorph themselves into mercenaries and just, like, join a war. And they're just going to live that life for, like, a good 10 years or however long the war lasts.
And be super fucking successful, probably.
Yeah, because even in polymorph form, I'm sure they're really strong.
Is that for, like, their, like, prestige? Like, I'm going to, like, assimilate this human persona and, like, rack up them kills?
Yeah, it is. It really is part of the prestige. And to the point where, like, one of the main things they like to collect is military items of, like, renown and prestige from wars that they were involved in their lives. They fucking gather that shit up. So, like, if there's like, I don't know, if they find like some ancient ass banner from a specific battle like that they were involved in, like they prize that. That's theirs
for sure. This was the lance that killed the general.
They might
of
fucking
the
commandeer
army.
some old abandoned ship that was like in a war that they were involved in. Pick that shit up and take it on over to the lair.
Yes.
Because they're big. They can do shit like that. So yeah, and
Oh man, I just pictured like this hoard of like weapons and treasure and like a boat just like parked in the middle of it.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And they'll make their they like to make their lairs usually in like coastal cliff sides or sometimes underwater in like a cove or something like that. That'd be a good place for them. They breathe underwater, so that's not any problem for them.
Now I pictured that ship docked in their cove and like their pile of treasure on the ship.
Exactly, yeah, and that's exactly something that they would do.
Hells yeah.
Most, especially because they're the most well organized of all dragons. They like to keep their hoard in order, and they're very.
So they might have like racks for their and shelves. And
exactly,
stuff.
and they're also very big on like keeping good order of their books when it comes to like their trades with people for treasure and stuff. Like they're very bookkeepery. They're very well organized, and I think that's a big part of that is because they're super about war and they're super about strategy.
Right on.
So they just the way their minds think. They're very organized, they're very tactical, and oftentimes like they climb up in ranks in war and like they'll be leading armies in humanoid form. They're really big on that shit.
Nice.
One key thing about them is though they will only fight for good. They usually require payment for their services of some sort. Okay. Especially if it's in dragon form. Like if it's a mercenary, they'll just take the normal like mercenary kind of fee that mercenaries would. If they're doing it as a dragon, if like an army beseeches them for help, it will be payment in like either something to put in their hoard is usually what it's going to be. Something that I don't know, whatever
something valuable to it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on bronze dragons. I don't know. I just like them. I kind of like their. Oh yeah, I remember. There's one thing. One thing that they will fight probably without a price is they're hugely against tyranny. If for some reason it just ruffles their feathers, I don't know what that's about really.
For sure.
But I think it really gives them a good excuse to put that strength to what they deem as a worthy cause.
Yeah. Okay.
And like a tyrant is dominating, and they want to dominate the dominator, if you will.
Let me remove that shit. Maybe that's just like the evil it is pitted against. Like,
yeah, exactly. So like tyranny is something that they actively fight against.
For sure.
If they hear about it, they'll do something about it usually.
Fuck.
Yeah. So let's move on to
aren't chromatic dragons kind of like assimilating themselves as like tyrannical leaders at
They're
times?
very much tyrannical, and I would say bronze dragons get into more fights with chromatics than any other type of dragon.
Probably because of that, maybe.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Because that's exactly what chromatic dragons do. I mean, there's
interesting.
Their goddess is a goddess of tyranny. Like it's what they do.
True.
So yeah, and I would say maybe golds get into fights with chromatics, but golds are like, we'll get to them. Okay, copper dragons. I'm saving silvers and golds for last because they're so cool.
Right.
Copper dragons are my least favorite dragon. I know that a lot of people love copper dragons, but I think the reason they're my least favorite dragon is because they breathe acid, which I don't give a fuck about. They're ugly, so I don't really like that either. But also role-playing them would be a nightmare for me because they're like jokesters and riddle makers, and that's just what they're about.
What?
They're really, really witty, really hyper-intelligent, and like that's really
just throwing off
for
the
me
puns.
to role-play. Yeah, rolling off. Oh god, they probably love puns. They have like two brow ridges. Their chin and jaw are like covered in frills. They have normal wings. They have a real reddish copper with the scales with the tips of their wings usually tinged in that bronze green we're talking about.
Cool.
They like to live in temperate climates, usually like rolling hills and valleys and whatnot, like real Shire like shit.
All right.
So 68,
70 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. Like good 72 degrees.
They won't live in the Underdark.
No, they're not about that though.
Okay.
They again, they're big jokesters. They love a good story, especially told with plenty of wit. They have a huge soft spot for bards to the point of like patroning them, if you will.
Okay.
And like supporting bards.
Like they're trying to hear what the local bard has to say.
Yeah, but to the point of like might polymorph into like a rich noble or whatever and like
summon a bard.
Not just summon a bard, but like
summon five bards.
Fund a bard.
Oh.
Like fund their adventures and make sure that they come back to tell them stories. They're really hospitable to bards. They usually find bards, bring them to the lair, and get the bard to like entertain them for a long period of time, and then okay, you can leave now.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of their deal. They're very miserly. They're more miserly than any other metallic dragon. They love their hoard and they protect the shit out of it to the point where they lay decoy hoards throughout their lair. Yeah, and on the point of their lairs, they are very well known for making the most confusing, impressive, labyrinth-like layers there are. Again, to protect their horde.
They fell for my tier 3 horde.
Exactly.
Garbage assholes, take it. I didn't even want it.
Exactly.
I haven't been in that horde in years.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing about them is, like, again, they're so dedicated to protecting their horde that they will often plant misinformation about items in their horde so that people go looking elsewhere for specific items that are in their horde. And they love to send people on wild goose chases for shit that either doesn't exist or is in their horde, and they're making sure to go far, far away.
Okay, so like this dragon is an asshole.
They're very trickstery. Yeah, they're the Loki of the dragon world.
Fucking douche.
Yeah, I don't like them. I don't like hopper dragons. I'm sorry. Mostly because I just wouldn't want to roleplay one, but they're cool in their own way.
That is a really cool way to not kill your players and still involve them with something like hyper powerful.
Yeah, that's true, and really show them that they're like
nothing
speck.
Yeah,
speck compared to this godlike being.
That's a cool. I'm into that for sure.
Yeah. All right, I'm done with copper dragons unless you want to add on to that.
No. Let's get to the meat.
All right. We're talking about silvers.
Oh.
So silver dragons are fucking cool as shit.
Hell yeah.
Number one, they look dope as fuck. They look like silver dragons.
Yeah, it's just like completely opposite of the rest of the dragons we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
As far as color spectrum.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. They have shimmering silver skin and a very prominent spine frill that kind of crowns their head and goes all the way down their spine to the tip of the tail. They got like real like classic European style like body build and wingspan and all that. And I like them not only because I just like this dragon from D&D, but also in the old books I used to read. As a matter of fact, in the first book I ever read, there was a very prominent silver dragon who actually fell in love with the protagonist, who was a human, and there's a whole thing there. But silver dragons are very prominent in Dragonlance, and they're the only ones that seem to really give a shit about what was going on in the world.
Okay.
While other dragons did care to a certain degree, it was more about fighting their evil counterparts.
Yeah, like no tyrant, I'm not getting involved. Kind of deal.
Yeah, kind of like, or if chromatic dragons weren't involved in any way, they kind of didn't care.
Okay.
Silvers aren't like that. And we'll get to that after I drink some of this water.
Glug, glug, glug. Mm-hmm. Them silvers.
Yeah, if listeners haven't noted, all this talking gets me really parched. So, also we do this show like what is equivalent to extremely early in the morning for me when I'm at my most dehydrated.
Just off the cuff.
Yeah,
we don't like to do edits. We like the way it sounds natural.
Yeah, there we go. With all the burps and glugs and all that. Jesus. Okay, silver dragons. So before we get into their personality, they breathe cold breath, which is dope. They also have a paralyzing gas breath. So. Yeah, that's what they do.
Cool.
They like to live in really cold mountaintops, and we're talking way up there. They like to be above the cloud line if they can help it.
For sure.
It's just
okay.
where they like to be. They probably come into contention mostly with white dragons who also like that climate.
Oh.
Silvers might.
Yeah, tundra style.
Yeah. Silvers might try and live in like Arctic, less mountainous ranges, but more Arctic regions sometimes. But again, they're really going to come into contention with white dragons because that's definitely where they live. Red dragons also like to live in mountains, and much like the blue dragon, the silver dragon on a good day might be able to take a red dragon, maybe. But generally speaking, the red dragon is going to fucking kill them. So if a red dragon moves in, they might be moving out.
I kind of like the idea of the red dragon like living in the deep.
Yes.
Inside the core of the mountain.
And that's definitely the case, I would say. Well,
so maybe they could live on the same mountain. Nope.
They fucking hate each other. It's not going to happen. No way.
They go out of their way to remove one or the other.
Yeah. Well, and
most likely the red removing the silver.
This is where silvers leave their hordes. Let me correct myself by saying they don't really live in these places usually, because most of the time they are living amongst people, and that's where they are going to spend most of their lives.
Oh shit!
Because they love people. They have a real soft spot for people.
So when they're in dragon form, they're basically just kicking it. Like somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're very honorable. They always like to do what is right, and they're very virtuous. They live a very moral life.
Okay.
But they're not super active about going out and doing good like a gold. It's more along the lines as they go and they live good, and if they're asked for help, they'll do good. They kind of have a philosophy where it's like they care and they like to help, and they'll help in their polymorph form a lot, but like they won't help as a dragon or go out and like do crazy amounts of good unless shit is going down and they really need to.
Right.
Otherwise, it's more along the lines of like they'll step in if they're asked by a friend or something like that.
Yeah, it seems maybe they're not trying to like touch the fate of these people like that. Like they're not trying to get too involved, let them deal with their own problems kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And They only usually leave society for long periods of time when they, again, go to check on their hoard or go to mate and, rear a child. The only dragon they're surpassed by when it comes to like socializing, with humans is steel dragons, which we're not going to talk about this episode, so I'm just mentioning that. Moving on. They have an especially soft spot for humankind.
Okay.
I do not know why. They just seem to really... I think they admire humans' ingenuity and drive and ambition, and much like sometimes elves do, where they're like, these poor humans that live so short a time, but they do so much with their lives. I think for dragons, it's even more magnified. It's like, wow, they really do a lot for this like blink of existence they live. And in fact, like I said, in the first book I ever read, the silver dragon, I can't remember her name, she fell in love with Huma, who was a human named Huma.
We did that little special intro.
We did that special intro for the wizard episode. So let's see, what else about them? They also have kind of a soft spot for elves. There's another book I read where a silver dragon fell in love with an elf. That was an interesting thing. But generally, they go out and do good. They don't step into human affairs of dragon capacity unless they're asked. Yeah, I don't know. You got any questions about silvers?
I mean, they seem pretty straightforward.
They're very straightforward.
Yeah.
They're just they make really cool characters.
They're like crazy, super duper crazy versions of elves, basically.
Yeah, actually, I would say so. Like, there's a lot about them that reminds me of elves.
Okay.
And yeah, they're like elves dialed to 100, yeah.
Are they mingling with the humans? Are they having human children?
All dragons seem to breed a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say silvers do that.
Okay. So it isn't super uncommon for them to like take a life mate for a generation of humanity?
I would say that's probably not too uncommon with silvers. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I would say it inevitably happens when you spend that much time around humans.
Yeah.
Here's one thing about silvers that stands out from the rest of all dragonkind is they're the only dragons out there that I know of that are super social with others of their kind, specifically other silver dragons. Like, they will live together. They will even live in like herds for a limited amount of times. They'll talk to each other.
Herds of dragons?
Yeah, like in small groups. Like, other dragons don't do that shit. They're super solitary.
I always picture dragons solo. Always.
Yeah, and they almost always are, except for silvers, who like each other. They're just generally nice people. They're just really nice people. Yeah, that's just the thing about silvers. That's why I like them. They're just nice.
Damn, so you could like have a squad of silvers rolling up and doing some mighty good shit.
Yeah, you could, but again, they're not super active. Like,
they're not trying to get into the fray like that.
Yeah. Like, they are technically lawful good, but like, they're very neutral good, if you ask me, in their behavior.
For sure. Okay, that's very interesting. That makes them very, very different from almost every other dragon.
Yeah, I would say so. So let's move on to the big bads, or the big goods, whatever you want to call them. Gold dragons.
The big old gold dragon.
They are generally the most powerful of all dragons, with the exception of some of the crazier ones like mithril dragons and shit like that. And also, like, dragons get crazy. We'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
They have a lustrous gold scales. They have a very Eastern kind of dragon look to them. They got like whiskers.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Long necks where they almost like, except for the fact that they aren't like Eastern Asian dragons, like their head and neck look like the beginning of one, and then the rest turns into a European dragon.
Like a dragon that like some lore would call a serpent.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And a big part of that is, again, the wings do the same thing as a brass dragon, where they start at the tips and go to the tail. And
it's like a heart shape,
huh?
That's like almost like a heart shape if you think about it.
Kinda, yeah. But when they fly, it's in a very like wavy pattern, much like an
up
Eastern
and down,
dragon would.
like a sound wave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And they here's some weird shit. They breathe fire. And they have a weakening gas for their second breath. But they also live underwater. They're amphibious and breathe water.
Okay, cool.
I don't know why.
I mean, there's lots of dragon lore where the dragon just lives in the ocean. I mean, that's a thing.
Right. Holy shit. I don't think my shit's recording. My video's been off this whole time. God damn it.
Turn it on real quick.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
That's funny.
Hey, YouTube fans, I'm back.
Will's face.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, sorry. What was I even saying? I looked, I was like, wait a minute, that number's not moving. Oh, fucking no.
I was talking about how, don't worry about it. I was talking about how, there's a lot of dragons that just live under the ocean. Like, that's a thing in lore.
Yeah. Oh, you mean in like actual mythology? Yeah. I would say, yeah, I agree with that. There was also a lot of D&D lore. You have like the dragon turtle and...
Ooh, dragon turtle?
Oh, yeah.
I'd leave dragons alone because I really like doing these episodes.
We'll do a Dragonkin episode, and I really look forward to that. So, I said this earlier, but gold dragons are the paladins of the dragon world. They literally dedicate their entire lives to doing good, but they do it solo. They're the most hermit-like and the most isolated of all dragons.
For sure.
They like to make their homes in like underwater layers that are like super far removed from anything.
Okay, cool.
They and generally the only time they ever socialize is when they're being raised as a child, and then when they're raising their own children.
Okay, cool. All right, that's all right.
The only other socialize.
Let me teach you how to be alone.
Yeah, pretty much. And they are known for their wisdom, for their sagacious, for being wise. They're very sage-like. That's what I'm trying to say. They're very sage-like. Okay. And they're known for it, and they're highly respected amongst other dragons because of it.
Right on.
On top of it, they also are the most powerful.
We're talking thousands of years of dragon, right?
Yeah, we're talking anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 years. Yeah. Cool. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll go into humanoid form, and they will just go out adventuring, and they'll hear about evil. They'll do like a sting operation where they're trying to get close to the evil, and then once they got a real finger on the pulse, turn into a dragon, fuck it all up. Done. Moving on. And they just do that. So like, I kind of like this because like, I think in other episodes I've talked about like, what is out there stopping all this bad shit from just taking over? Right. Because there's so much. It's these gold dragons,
It's the gold dragons.
Yeah, they're doing it. They're out there fucking shit up.
They're humanoid. They step in. Maybe that'd be funny. You start the fight as your humanoid form, and then you're losing because you're fighting super powerful shit. It's like, I just wanted to try it out, but this isn't even my final form.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a gold dragon might do that.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
They are. They're often known as being overly aloof and overly serious. Like, like I said, they're super dedicated. They're all about the mission, and like that's all they do. They have no lives. They're losers. Sure. They're not losers, but like Jesus, guys. Oh, get a hobby.
How much more do we got on gold?
Not too much. I mean, again, this is a basic overview of why. What's up?
Because you were supposed to tell me about Angus McDonald. Okay,
so Angus McDonald. If any of you are fans of the Adventure Zone,
and if you're not, you should check it out.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah, but if you don't like it, I'm not going to judge.
Yeah, it's really good. But there is an NPC named Angus McDonald who is a young boy detective who
the world's greatest detective.
Yeah, world's greatest detective, and it has been theorized that he may be Silver Dragon, which I think if he is, we will find out in the next few episodes.
There's not much left.
Yeah, there's not much left. So, what did you want me to say about Angus McDonald?
Well, I wanted to talk about the theory, like what. Okay. Like what about it? What about it has brought up that this could be possible?
Oh man,
because that would probably tell you about Silver Dragons.
One of the things was at some point in the second arc, he made a charisma save, and it was whoppingly huge.
Yeah, it was enormous,
which is something a dragon would definitely have. And again, dragons do polymorph and end up amongst humans. Okay. Another thing was that he was trying to collect a very important silver set for his grandpa, who he says some interesting things about his grandpa where you can't really get a good sense of who he is, but like the way he talks about his grandpa. Oh yeah, he says his grandpa's so old he doesn't remember his name anymore. Yeah. Which is something that dragons can get so old they don't remember shit. Like, okay, we're going to jump back to gold dragons real quick because in some of the books I've read, there was this gold dragon who's so fucking old. He's like senile. Oh shit. He's like 10,000 years old. Oh fuck. And like there's this hilarious scene.
So he's like double the max lifespan.
Yeah. And there's this hilarious scene where he's like sitting on his hilltop all old and like playing chess with this old as fuck senile wizard. Oh, and like they're just yelling at each other and like talking shit and like the wizard's always giving him shit for forgetting stuff and calling him a cheater at the game and whatnot. There's a point where the wizard like attacks him with his staff and the gold dragon's like, dude, you need to calm down. And it's just like this hilarious scene. But what you end up finding out later is that this wizard, Fizban the Fabulous, is actually, it's one of Paladine, is one of his disguises, mortal disguises. Oh shit. And Paladine is Bahamut.
Super old?
Huh?
Is Bahamut super old?
Well, Bahamut's a god. He's a god of dragons. Yeah, he's very old. And like he's keeping this dragon company because he's probably known this dragon a very long time. Unlike most gods, I would say that gods like Bahamut and Tima have a very personal relationship with individual dragons because they're kind of like
probably not that many of them.
There's not that many of them, and they're considered the king of their dragons. So like
kind of foster
probably
those
Paladine and this guy go way back. Yeah, and so he's keeping him company
for sure.
And also Fizban the Fabulous, his avatar is also very senile and crazy. But I digress. Dragons can get so old where they would forget their name. So that was another key factor. And then his innate ability to spellcast very quickly, like quicker than Taco ever should have taught him. And I know there was a few other things, and I can't remember them.
I think
off
he
the top of my
cast
head.
lightning bolt in this last episode.
That wasn't him though. That was a different thing. Yeah.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers. Anyways, long story short, there is a theory out there that Angus and McDonald might be a silver dragon, and quite frankly, I think that's cool, and I hope that's the case. But we are so far off topic, so let's get back to gold dragons. I only got a few other things to say about gold dragons that are like little interesting tidbits. They like to eat treasure.
Why?
They don't. They just like to. They eat gold and gems. They fucking love that.
I mean,
shit.
they are metal.
Yeah, it really doesn't get into it, and it even says like they don't need to. They just like to.
I just like the way
they
my
really
poops
appreciate
feel.
people that give them gifts of like stuff to eat like that. Like, oh, here's like a brooch. Eat it.
Here's a fucking gold brick.
Yeah, eat it.
Fucking.
You know what? I will.
Bon appetit, motherfucker.
Yeah, pretty much. They like to hoard pearls, specifically pearls, but also gemstones in general.
Okay.
And they are.
See, I like this because I know a lot more about like serpents or dragons in the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So them being like aquatic in a lot of instances is kind of cool to hear.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is cool. They're considered master hoarders. They have very deep and secretive layers, super far removed from anybody. They're probably getting sacked the least out of all dragons, so they generally have the biggest hoards of all dragons.
Hell yeah.
Which I guess is impressive considering they eat that shit too. So
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gold dragons for you. They have a very innate sense of law and justice, and they are about it. One of the things about them is when they go out and do evil slaying or evil stopping, they love to turn those fuckers over to the authorities.
Shit.
They got boners for justice. they're about it, man. And it makes sense. Their deity, their chief deity, is the god of justice, and I think they take after him a lot. It's said that Bahamut, when he takes the form of a man to wander the earth, he's usually followed by like 10 golden canaries that are actually polymorphed, like ultra power ancient gold dragons. And that's just his
my battalion.
Yeah,
stallion.
that's his entourage right there. So yeah, gold dragons and Bahamut, they roll deep.
You don't want to be getting fucked up by other gods.
No,
So like
definitely not.
a great way to offset like an equal power match between gods is to just have 10 gold dragons. Obviously.
There you go. And with that, I think we're done with our brief overview of metallic dragons. I don't know how brief that was, but I do hope it was helpful. And don't worry, we will get much more into the lore of these dragons and layers and role-playing them and all that cool stuff in future episodes.
Yeah, I think we're doing it in order too. I think we're going back to chromatic dragons first, and then we're going into
Probably.
metallic.
I think so.
And are we hitting? And then we're going to be hitting dragons upon dragons upon dragons.
Yeah, we'll be doing dragonkin. We'll be doing like the other types of dragons that we haven't talked about. We'll do gem dragons. We'll do the other metallics and the other chromatics that we haven't even covered. And elemental dragon. Yeah, there's a lot of dragon stuff we'll cover.
So I know that in some campaigns you never see a dragon. Blah blah blah. I know in your campaign that we ran, that we were pretty much directly involved with if not the dragon, then the mischief that this dragon was into.
Right.
We were dealing with that in our campaign. What about these other dragons? How involved are they with like games that you run usually? Like, how much of this lore are you implementing into your D&D setting typically? Like with a is there a gold dragon running around slaying evil, or etc.?
Well, okay. So in my world that I've ran for a long time, excuse me, dragons have actually been absent from the world for the last 3,000 years. And it's been very recent that they've started to stir. And then the campaign that I was running with you guys was the beginnings of all that. And shit was going to fucking go down. And we'll probably get back to that campaign one day. I would really love to, because I have big plans for it.
For sure.
So before that, I wasn't really running too much dragon stuff. Any dragon stuff I was usually running was usually chromatic dragons, and it was usually in one-shots.
Okay.
Just because every once in a while you need a dragon fight.
Yeah.
So you run a one-shot.
We're playing D&D. Hit me with the dragons.
Yeah. as for like how common are dragons amongst other people's campaigns, I mean, more common than most monsters, but there's so many monsters you don't really see them all that often.
Yeah, I mean, it's common enough. Like,
can't fight a dragon every day.
Yeah, and it's usually like I would imagine it's such a high-powered creature. You're gonna want to get to it in the late game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like your party does a bunch of stuff, and then eventually they run into a dragon.
Yeah,
like that's typically
that's pretty much how it goes. Yeah,
one way or another, the dragons are probably going to get involved in D&D lore
at some point. Yeah, because it's called Dungeons and Dragons for a reason.
Yes.
So with that, I think we're done. I think we're going to call it a game.
Let's call it a game.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Bye. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons & Dragons, from fierce fighters to fickle fiends. And today, is it really happening? Are we talking about chromatic dragons?
It's a metallic dragon. It's not chromatic dragon.
Oh, we gotta do it again.
Oh, shit.
Metallic dragons. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do the same thing. You can jump in on the yelling if you want.